We have the pleasure to be here with Yiannis Exarchos, that is the mayor of the of the Olympic TV planet. No? The first thing that we have had entering here, how many people are living in this planet?
Gianni, first of all, it's always a pleasure to be meeting with you. I don't know how many games we go back, the two of us. In the Olympic Games, we have a total of around 16,000 broadcasters. 8,000 of them is the team of OBS, the team that's responsible for the coverage of the games, for delivering all the services to the broadcasters. Here in the International Broadcast Center, at any moment, you can have up to 8,000 people working. It's a big facility. It's 50,000 square meters, but it's much smaller than in Rio. It's 25% smaller, because we have very, very aggressively introduced some new technologies and smart solutions that come from technology, especially the adoption of cloud technologies that have allowed us to help broadcasters to do more remotely, to do more things from back home. So we have less footprint and slightly less presence of broadcasters here. Even though we produce 30% more than in Rio, we will produce around 9,500 hours of content, more hours than there are in a year, actually. And I'm sure that these are going to be the most massively consumed games. And I'm saying consumed and not watched, because we're no longer in the period just of traditional television. Now it's about content consumption through all different platforms, through streaming, through social media, and so on. All this is organized and coordinated from this space.
But I think that sometimes it's a kind of headache to think to everything. What was the most difficult moment to prepare all this planet?
The difficulty obviously had to do with the postponement of the games, because the day when the games were postponed, we had 150 colleagues from OBS here in Tokyo. They were very, very close to finalizing the IBC construction. We were just starting installing some equipment. It was the end of March of 2020. Then with the postponement, we practically had to replan everything. Our big objective was to make sure that we can still deliver 1 year later exactly the same scope that we had in mind, because the Games of Tokyo were supposed to be very special for us, with a lot of new things in terms of broadcasting. The first games that we would cover completely in 4K with immersive audio, and many other innovations. So the important thing is, how could we make sure that we can still deliver during the times of the pandemic? We didn't know at the time, 1 year before, the situation was not good at all. And how can we also help our rights-holding broadcasters to stay close to the games, to keep on supporting the games, and not to incur any damage from this postponement? So we had to replan almost everything. We had to rehire all the people that we worked for the games, to redo most of our contracts. And also we had to replan most of the spaces to be compatible with the physical distancing, to be compatible with the rules of the playbook, of the famous playbooks, and so on. It was a lot of work, but I must say that we had, first of all, the full support from our broadcasters. They still expected and look forward to the Olympic Games as a big moment of reunification for the world. They looked forward to them as the big event of 2021. And I must say that we had also huge support with most of the people, all of the people that work for us, our freelancers, the crews that work with us, the production teams, the companies that provide to us equipment, and so on. Everybody understood that everybody needs to do their own part in order to make the games happen as we want them to be, as we want the Olympics to be. And this was the big help. Yes, it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of work that got done based on this common desire of everybody to deliver the games as we imagine the games to be.
The opening ceremony was difficult. What was the key moment also? How you have felt inside during that night?
Allow me to say that my personal relationship with the opening ceremony is quite special because usually I'm very involved in the preparation for the ceremony. I do the production for television. I love the opening ceremonies because they bring, it's a unique moment where the host countries can showcase their culture and brings together the two worlds that I love, the world of sport and the world of art creativity. So I was very much involved and knew about the plan. This plan changed a lot through the month. So it was a slightly different ceremony that was planned before the pandemic. Then in the difficult times of the pandemic, it took a different turn. And then as we were approaching the games, it started taking a different turn. So for me, I cannot distance myself from the ceremony. I must say that we had a fantastic collaboration with the chief producer, with the executive producer of the ceremony, with Takioki. We have forged a very, very strong bond. We first met in the handover to Tokyo in Rio, in the closing ceremony of Rio, and we started having a very good collaboration. And this continued throughout. And we discussed together a lot of the elements of the ceremony. How can we make this ceremony at the same time totally respectful of what people have gone through. This is not about throwing a party. Still, many parts of the world are in a very difficult situation, and we have been through a lot, and people have been through a lot. But on the other hand, it should be a ceremony about hope. So for me, it was a very, very moving moment. First of all, because we arrived there. When the ceremony started, many people never thought that we would arrive to the opening ceremony. So it was very emotional also for us in the control room of the ceremony that we had finally arrived there. And as it usually happened, the ceremony worked far better during the ceremony than in any of the rehearsals. In a magic way, everything seems to be falling in place. As it did in Athens, I remember it was the same. I had a lot of stress. Not everything was achieved in any of the rehearsals, but everything went magically during the ceremony itself. It's the magic of the games.
I think that the result of these games were very important because the athlete has performed at the top level. In athletics, there are some results that are unbelievable. Nobody could believe.
You know that I have a passion, not with sports, but athletics for me is my biggest passion. And I cannot easily remember such a competition in athletics. Yes, we don't have Usain any longer in the competition, but what we have seen, the days, the final of high jump, congratulations, by the way, the final of triple jump of women, today the world record in 400 meters hurdles. So the level of the athlete performance is really beyond, because there were concerns. They have stayed out of practicing, out of training, not too much competition. What we see here is dream performances, truly. The other element, which is truly interesting, is, of course, we would all love to have, spectators actually being in the venues. We don't have them. But what we have seen is that the athletes themselves are actually overcompensating in terms of emotional engagement for the absence of spectators. You can tell that when they finish their performance, they are all together and everybody supporting everybody else as if it was not about the specific race or the specific competition. Sure. It was about getting to this moment of being in the games. And frankly, the fact that every single one of them, I have spent some time, in some of the mix-ons of the venues, the thing that they all say unprompted is, it's incredible that we are here. It's fantastic. It's the most fantastic thing, journalists start asking them, what do you think about your performance, your score, or whatever. The important thing is that we are here. I cannot believe that I'm here, every single one of them. These are clearly the games of streaming. So what is happening is that now you have obviously a more distributed audience, distributed across the many different platforms. platforms. So you have people in traditional linear television, which is being reduced, but you have an explosion in OTT platforms, on streaming platforms. You still have an ongoing explosion in terms of consumption of content on social media that broadcasters more and more engage. So this is why we will need to start getting used to new terms of measuring the audience, which has to do with what we call now total media consumption, rather than the traditional ratings that had to do with what you did on the prime time on traditional television last night. For sure, the total media consumption, so how much of the games has been experienced, watched, and so on, will set a new record in this game.